Welcome to Dicta, your weekly dose of law school and bar exam info. I'm Carrie Ann.
And I'm Puyan, and we're the co-founders of Vinco. So what we wanted to discuss today is some of the drastic differences between law school and undergrad. So the main thing I wanted to discuss is density of reading and just the level of material that you're going to receive when you enter law school. When I first got to law school, I didn't think it was going to be that much harder than undergrad, which I kind of breezed through, just cramming at the end, and no, you can't do that for law school. When I would read like a 3-chapter assignment on an undergrad, I could do it in like 1 or 2 hours. I would kind of skim through it. Every time I see something that I think could be tested or is important, I would write it down, take particular note of that fact, and move on. And at the end of the semester, I would just review my notes and get a good grade. In law school, it's very different. You're not reading really for broad strokes or for general points. Each specific case needs to be briefed, and you need to find the specific sentences in those several pages of super dense material that are going to be tested. You need to be able to separate rules from dicta. You need to really be able to separate what the facts are and figure out where the analysis section is. And it takes practice, you know. You're not going to be good at it at first. What could take an hour to read in undergrad could take 10 hours to read in law school, page-wise. You know, I could read a single paragraph over and over again 5 times until I understand how it fits into the grand scheme of things.
You're making it sound like so much fun.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it again. but the point is, you really need to slow down, actively read, and don't be discouraged if you're really slow at first, because you're learning this whole new skill set that no one's taught you how to do. So just be patient and take it slow.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe my difference is going to be more of a positive in that most of your classes will only have one test, which sounds like a positive, but it's not really, because your whole grade for each class will be dependent on one exam, which for me was very different than undergrad. We had papers and midterms and all these sorts of things. And I mean, this isn't a rule at every law school, but from my experience and what I've heard, this is pretty much the standard: one class, one final, one grade. So that could be a little stressful. And to make matters, well, better or worse, depending on who you are, that test is generally anonymously graded, which for me was a bit disappointing because, you know,
you couldn't suck up.
You might put it that way. I called it being friendly, just generally being nice to people. But yeah, your professors aren't really taking into account who you are and the relationship maybe that you've built over the semester, which will play into your last tip of the curve. But before we get there, I also want to talk about the fact that there are sections in law schools, right? Which is totally different. I don't know any undergrad that does that. So you come to law school and you take all of your first year courses with the same people, right? Which can also have its positive and negative. Like you're bonded with these people who you're going through this stressful experience with, and you can rely on them and study with them and get class notes from them when you're absent, and you know that you have your people. But also, you take all of your classes with the same people. So if there's someone that you don't like, or, you know, you go on a bad date, these are all things you want to keep in mind, that you're with these people for a whole year. So you want to keep things
don't date people in your section.
Yeah, that's typically really good 1L advice.
I mean, coincidentally, they will put all of the people who have a scholarship in the same section, so you're directly competing. And I
mean, this is more of a conspiracy theory than like necessarily proven truth. Theory. But yes, that's a rumor that runs around every law school, which may be true, right? Make you work for it.
Yeah. So also, law schools are typically on a curve. And I mean, my undergrad, a lot of the classes were 300-person lectures that were on curves anyway, but I know many undergrads do not curve their exams. Yeah. So it's kind of a different experience, because you have this plethora of information that you're expected to be familiar with or have mastery of before the final exam. And realistically, the professor's only going to test you on a tiny percentage of it. And it's the people who remember those tiny facts that are going to do the best, and it's on a curve. So I've seen exams that out of 100, the person who got 29 out of 100 got the A, and the person who got the 19 out of 100 got like the C minus. So like, it's just a different experience where every single person who took the exam walks away from it thinking they absolutely failed.
It's really about who failed better
Yeah.
than the rest of the class.
Yeah.
This is how you get an A in law school. I mean, it was really culture shock for me because I went to a small school and I had small classes and I was never graded on a curve. So
Yeah, it's very different. So these are just some things that you should take into account when you enter law school, if you enter law school, and don't expect it to be like undergrad.
yeah. So look, there's a lot of things that you might find different about law school when you get there. Some things will be really personal to you, but hopefully today we've given you a heads up on some of the more common things that people find surprising, and we hope that you come back next week to hear our next video. If you'd like to have your question answered here, email Carrie Ann at vincoprep.com.
See you soon.